people either love you or hate you. How do you deal with the people that hate you, basically?
You know, it all comes from having a horrible time at school, getting bullied at school, really struggling with my mental health. I was in the Priory Hospital at 16. You know, I was left in 90 grand worth of personal debt. Like, you know, like I've been through a load of stuff as well. So I'm not here to say like, oh, everything's wonderful. Been so broke, and I know how stressful it is to have no money and to be in debt. And I remember just like tears, like, you know, running down my face. I didn't open my post for 3 years. I didn't even open the letters. It makes me want to cry. I remember just looking at this on my big calculator and just looking at that number and thinking, I've made £1 million in a year. And you just imagine how annoying it is if you do hate me. But ultimately, I'm still very much that kid who is a bit weird.
If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be? You've got a following of over 40,000 on social media, and anybody that has found their way to this podcast via your social media platforms will know who you are and obviously have an idea and opinion of you. But my listeners don't know who you are. So would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Helen Tudor?
I love that. It's terrible for my ego, but I love that. When no one knows, when I walk into a room and no one knows me, I've got to start again. It's great. But I got most famous for helping business owners with how to get leads from LinkedIn. That was like my first business that I became known for. But now I'm more of I call myself the expert's expert. There you go. I just claim it, because what I do is I help people in business get known for the thing that they are best at.
Putting the business aside, Helen, tell us about you, because, you know, there's a human behind all of this. And yes, I'm sure that there's fun and there's kind of entertainment and you like to be the life and soul of the party. But where did that all come from?
It's all trauma based, you know. It all comes from having a horrible time at school, getting bullied at school, really struggling with my mental health. I was in the Priory Hospital at 16, had my 17th birthday in there. That was a birthday party I'll never forget. You know, right through to like dropping out of uni, you know, having relationships that were not great for me, you know, getting married young, having my girls young, getting into loads of debt, you know, all through the like 2008, 2009 credit crunch, whatever it was called in those days. You know, I was married to a builder at that point, with 2 small children. Like, his business went under, our marriage went with it. You know, I was left in 90 grand worth of personal debt. Like, you know, like I've been through a load of stuff as well. So I'm not here to say like, oh, everything's wonderful, but I feel like all of that adversity really is what drives me to make things more fun. But like, I feel like I'm in that season of life now, though, where it's overwhelmingly much more good than it is bad, because things feel really, really overwhelmingly really, really positive at the moment.
I know that in life we all have challenges. You mentioned quite a few that you've had since you were very, very young. What do you feel is the biggest learning?
I think the 2 big things for me have been the mental health stuff, and that's tied in with like the bullying at school and things as well. So I think that being admitted to the Priory was like a bit of a moment, you know, and I've got loads of like, you know, stories from those days. It was a different time in a lot of ways as well, but the stuff that I learned in the Priory changed my life and the trajectory of my life in a lot of ways forever, because it made me see at that such a young age. It was a mixed age. I wasn't just with youngsters. And I met all these different people from all these walks of life. So seeing all these different types of people in that kind of unit really like showed me that anybody, anywhere, from any background can just get into a situation that they're struggling to get out of.
What do you share with your children about those experiences?
I said before, like, there's 2 things that really stand out in my history that I think like form who I am today. One is the mental health stuff, and the other is being in a lot of debt. I got into a lot of debt when I was young and married, and the girls were little. And they're the 2 things that I talk to my children about incessantly. So I think there's 2 ways of parenting, isn't it? It's like I'm going to be a parent, I'm going to be your friend. And I've always gone down there, I'm going to be your friend. And I know that's like not the popular choice, but I've always said to the girls, I am your number one best friend. Like I want, like, this is what I want us to be, like friends, not like I'm your mum and there's this distance between us. And the way I've managed to do that, and the big moment for me was at the wedding when the girls did a speech and they actually said, Katie's actual words were, Kate, the three of us living like best friends. Like that makes me want to cry. Because that to me was like the thing that I wanted them to feel. So my parenting style has always been full disclosure. Like, ask me anything, I'll tell you the truth. And I do tell them the truth. And like right from when they were little, like using all the right words for the bits and pieces, I'm saying it now, but you know what I mean? Like using all the right words, using all the right terminology, being honest when they'd say to me, like, where did I come from? It's like, out of my vagina, like that kind of thing, like, so this radical honesty parenting style.
Being a friend as a parent is pretty divisive. If you're listening or watching, why don't you leave your comments in this episode and join the debate? Do you think being a friend as a parent is the right way or the wrong way? I'm really interested because I'm very similar with my kids. Now, we're a blended family, and I've always said to my kids, look, whatever happens, if you're in trouble, if there's stuff going on, tell me. There are drugs out in the world. If you're going to try something and if you feel worried about it, always come and tell me, because I was quite a strict mum as they were growing up. But as soon as they turned 16, all of them, I said to them, look, you are pretty much, I'm not going to be on your case anymore. I started relaxing a bit because I thought I've taught them all of the, they know the right things to do and the wrong things to do, right? They know right from wrong. But at the same time, it's you're right. You want them to walk into your home. How possibly you didn't feel, and I've got my own background with my parents, that you felt a disconnect with your parents when you were younger, and you didn't want to have that with your kids, and I certainly didn't want to have that with mine. So hats off to you. And I think I'm at the same sort of stage as you. I am a little bit older than you, which we found out. I think you're in your mid-40s, right?
45 now.
Yeah. And I think one
45,
of the
yeah.
conversations that we had was that I wish, like you said to me, that you're kind of moving into this midlife and you're suddenly in a really great place, and as you say, it is actually quite overwhelming. And I'm 51. I wish that I had known now what I knew then at 40. So you've got a way to go. You're like way ahead of me. So you've got a brilliant rest of your life. One thing you mentioned was that you were bullied at school, and you said it wasn't like physical bullying. I've seen somewhere that you've said people either love you or hate you. How do you deal with that? The people that hate you, basically, because if you've had to deal with that at school, does that not trigger you?
Yeah, it does trigger you, and you'll find loads of content of me saying, like, you either love me or hate me, and that's fine. Other opinions are available, and all that kind of stuff. And you just imagine how annoying it is if you do hate me, because like I'm running Facebook ads, so there's my face. Do you know what I mean? Like, here I am again. I'm always on social media. I'm always around. People always talking about me. So I imagine if you do hate me, it's very, very annoying. But ultimately, I'm still very much that kid who is a bit weird, who is a bit awkward, who is a bit loud and uses, humor as a coping mechanism, and uses like self-deprecation as a coping mechanism. Do you know what I mean? If I feel like people are going to say, I'd rather say bad things about myself and call it out before people say, like, oh, I don't like you. And I'm like, well, people don't like me. A lot of people say that to me. I didn't like you when I met you, but I love you now. And it's just like, it's just the way I am. It is that Marmite thing. It's like, but a lot of people meet me and say, like, you're just too much for me. It was just too much. Or you said something that I didn't like. But the more I got to know you, the more I've seen beyond that. And I feel like for me, like, I just show up the way I am. There is no difference between me now and me in real life, apart from probably I'm a lot nicer on camera because this is the best version of me, obviously. I don't, show up like, and show business, right? So I've got to come and put on a show in terms of like, I want to show the best of me for this. But ultimately I'm the same kind of person. So my job is not to try and bend to fit into what other people want. My job is to be as much me as possible. And I'm probably 10% more me online, right? So that the people who do love me are drawn to me and I can help them. And the people that don't like me are repelled from me and I don't have to deal with them. So if anything, being more me is a coping strategy. It's like good. Like I wanna like amplify who I am because I don't want to deal with the people. Like on a business sense, like I've seen this at scale. So yes, at school, some people love me, some people hated me, right? And in at work, some people have loved me and some people hate me, right? So it's obviously, that's normal. But online, so like, yeah, I've got hundreds of thousands of like connections, followers, email people, like, what I mean? Like I've got like hundreds of thousands and I've done hundreds of thousands of hours of live content, right? So I've seen this reaction at scale. So maybe you work in an office with 10 people, 2 people love you, 2 people hate you, the rest of the people can't name you, right? That's like average. It's like that, but with thousands of people. So I get hundreds and thousands of people who are like, oh my God, you're the best thing ever, which is great for me, great for my ego, very like it's like soothes me on a human level because all these people are like, oh my God, I love you, I think you're amazing. But then I've also got all of these people who are like, oh my God, I cannot stand you. And but they tell me, they like send me these big long emails about how much they don't like me. And I'm like, who am I escalating this to, babe? You're sending an email to me about me at my company. I don't know what. You don't like the way I am. You don't like that I swear. You don't like that I drink wine. You don't like that I'm really direct. You don't like that I'm northern. You don't like that I move my hands around when I'm speaking. It's like, I can't, this is who I am. But for everyone who hates all that, there's the people that write in, if you like, and go, oh my God, I love Helen so much. She's amazing. I love that she drinks wine. I love that she's chilled. I love that she's northern and direct. So if there's anything I've learned is that dial it up, not down, because you want to attract all that love, but you can't have one without the other. You can't just have people who love you. It just doesn't work like that. Look at Taylor Swift. You can't have one without the other. It's just the duality of life. So yeah, I do get both positive and negative reactions, but I'd much rather that than nothing.
Helen, I'm just going to pause you there. If you are enjoying this episode, don't forget to hit the follow button and remember to subscribe so you don't miss another episode. You've told us a lot about yourself and you've told us a lot about your business self. You've told us a lot about your, self in the past and also your present and really what kind of like, I guess, fills your cup up. What drives you? What really drives you? What is it? What's that one thing that gets you out of bed in the morning?
So I was going to say helping people. But the truth is, what really drives me is not being broke. Because I've been so broke and I know how stressful it is to have no money and to be in debt. What actually drives me every day is to make sure I never go back there again. Now, the way that I do that is by helping people. So it's great because I get to do both. I get to make money by helping people. But I'm driven by moving away from that identity that I had for such a long time of being in debt and being broke and being made to feel less than because I was unable to manage my money, right? So to me, the first million that I made, I'll never forget it because I was sat in my little office in the front of my house and I just looked at my Xero, which is the accounting software, and I added it up for the year because my year end and the end of the year is obviously two different things in business. So my accountant only gives me year end stuff. So what I like to do is end of year stuff, right? So it was January about the 2nd, I think, 2021. And I went on my Xero and I ran the report and it was two different businesses that do something and I added them up. And I added them up and it was like 1,100,000 and something. And I remember just looking at this on my big calculator, like on my desk, and just looking at that number and thinking, I've done it. I've made £1 million in a year. Now I've made £1 million in revenue. Yeah, I've done that. I did that after about in my first in my second or third year in business, right? I've done £1 million in revenue in total, which was a big celebration for the team and everything. But that was the first million I'd made in a year. And I remember just looking at it and thinking, I've done it. Like, I've made a million. I've done what I set out to do, which was to make 1 million in a year, right? It's this 7-figure thing that everyone talks about online. And then I remember got up and I went into the kitchen and I undid the dishwasher and fed the cat. And I was like, oh, like, where's my marching band? Like, where's the confetti? Where's the big celebration? You know what I mean? I was just like, oh, but it made me feel nothing in a really beautiful way, because it made me lose that feeling of abject anxiety that had followed me around for so long. And I was like, if I can make £1 million in revenue, not profit, £1 million in revenue in 1 year, anything is possible for me. Like, in me, 90 grand in debt, 2010 me can do that 10 years later. Anything's possible for me. And what that really helped me with, it didn't change my life, but what it meant was that I could start to give and help people from a place of certainty and confidence, rather than anxiety and stress and hustle and let's all go and make some money. And up to then it'd be like, hey, we've all got to get out there, we've got to go and make some money, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, we've got to do that. It's all about making money, it's all about making money. And it was almost like I had to do that to prove to myself that once you've made the money and you've got yourself out of that, that hierarchy of needs anxiety, then you can start to give from a different place. And that's really what drives me now.
I think money is a fear for so many people. I'm in a situation at the moment where I've bought a house in Spain. I've got to sell my house in the UK because I can't afford to run 2 houses. And the fear creeps up in my belly because I feel like it's out of my control. It's completely out of my control. Is that how was that how it felt for you? Did you just feel totally like overwhelmed, out of control, like what's going to happen tomorrow?
For so long, for years, I didn't open my post for 3 years. I didn't even open the letters, and I didn't answer my phone. I was just so, I was so, like, I'd had so many conversations with debt collectors and like banks, and I was massively overstretched. 2008, 2009, we were all self-certain mortgages, we were getting egg credit cards and transferring balances, and it was just like, Barclays bank loans in 3 clicks and all that those days. I was with my children, and they were about 3 and 5, I think, then, and I was in the shop where I live, and at that time I was doing massage and reflexology. So I'd gone and I'd done a client, and I remember I think I had £40, and I put £20 in the car, and then I had my £20 note. I had no access to any banks, all my bank accounts were like frozen. I was literally living £20 to £20, and I was in the shop to get some stuff, and I was buying stuff for the kids. And I remember we went round, and I did it up wrong. Maths not my strong point. And I got to the till, and Sheila, the lady who's worked there since God knows how long, she's at 80 now, she still works there a couple of shifts. And she said, oh, hi Helen, hi girls. And she put it all through, and she said, oh, it's like £26 or whatever. And I just remember feeling absolutely, I was like, oh, I was like, I've only got £20. I just remember going like, get a big rash up your neck, and you're like, feel myself having a panic attack, and there's people in the shop that I know, and the kids are like going, what's happening? And Sheila's lovely, and she's just putting some stuff, let's just get rid of some of this stuff up here, and then she bags it up. And I just remember going and sitting in the car, it's pouring rain, and I just remember crying. You do that like silent crying because you don't want the kids to be like, what's the matter? I think they were kicking off anyway because they'd put something back of theirs. And I remember just like tears, like, running down my face, and the rain running down the thing on the £1,000 Renault Clio my dad had bought me, like, after me and my husband split up, and he took the car, and my kids are in coats my mum had bought them, and shoes my mum had bought. And I just remember thinking, God, this is your choice now. You have to do something, because this is embarrassing. Like, no one's coming to save you. You have to do this yourself. You can only just feed your kids. Like, you're 30 years old. Get a grip. Like, pull yourself together. And it isn't going to be getting a job. So you better go and make some proper money. And that was it. I went home and set up LinkedIn, and that was the beginning, really. But it was that moment. It was like the most sort of middle class, rock bottom moment. Do you know what I mean? I'm like in my Renault Clio outside the co-op in my really nice post. it was like, it wasn't, there was no, like, I wasn't on the streets or eating out the bin, and my mum and dad would have looked after me forever. I'm from a lovely middle class family, but like, it was that moment of like, it was that an out of body experience, just looking at myself going, you need to get a grip, go on, that's it, like, you got to get your shit together, Helen. And I did, and that moment drives me massively as well. And that but sort of digging myself out of debt like that, you know client by client, sale by sale, money in the bank after money in the bank, that never leaves you. Like, I wrote down on my notepad that day, how much money do I need to make here to change my life? And it was 2.5 grand a month. I thought, if I can make two and a half, which seemed out of the realms of reality, if I can make 2.5 grand a month, like, I can pay my uncle back. My uncle had had to buy my house so I could stay living in it and stuff like that. I could pay my uncle back. I could pay my debts. I could do this. It seemed like a huge goal, a huge goal. And I thought, well, I just need to, if I do this thing for £250 a month, so I started doing social media for people before anyone knew what social media was really, and I get 10 clients, then that's 2.5 grand a month. And that was really my business model, my business strategy. And that's what I teach now. It's like, pick an amount, pick an offer, sell it to that amount of people, and then do the next thing. Don't look past that. And that version of me drives a lot of the teaching that I do now. I know, and sometimes I shy away, really. That's not true. I don't shy away talking about how much money I've made, because I think it's something to be really proud of. But I don't want people to look at me and think, oh, she's made millions, so she doesn't get me. Like, I get you. Like, I know that 2 grand a month is life changing for most people. I know that 500 quid a month is life changing for most people.
You shared with me that you got christened for the first time. Well, for the first time, you actually got christened in your 40s.
Yes.
What was that all about?
It's so weird. So it's because I've told you all the other stuff, this is probably going to make more sense. So when I was younger, and also like after my divorce, I was single for a long time, like, I would say that I was not leading a particularly godly life. Let's just put it under that banner.
Okay.
Yeah. And but I'd always had religion as a bit of a backdrop. So when I was growing up, I used to go to Sunday school. I'm the youngest of 5. I think it was just something for them to send us to on a Sunday, to be honest. Anyway, but my grandma was very religious. She was the president of the Methodist Church near where I live. So I used to go to church with my grandma, again, when I was there on a Sunday, because my mum and dad probably out doing something with the other kids, or like for themselves, I don't know. So there's this, I was kind of brought up around church, but I was never actually christened because my mum's Catholic and my dad's Methodist. So that when they got married in a registry office. It was second marriage, but for both of them, and I think that they just couldn't decide, or it just wasn't a priority. I think my dad would have loved for me to get christened, but I think my mum, as a divorced Catholic, wasn't really embracing her Catholic faith, but she also wasn't embracing my dad's faith. They didn't go to church, and maybe they just thought, it's our 5th child between us, we'll just, and the messaging to me was always, you can decide when you're older, if that's what you want to do. I got my children christened when they were younger, but I wasn't christened. And I always felt a bit like, am I religious or not? Like, I can, like, when my niece was airlifted to hospital, for example, when she was born, 20 years ago, not 18 years ago now, I remember she was going to the hospital. She was born in Jersey, so she was airlifted into London, because she was very poorly. And I remember just saying the Lord's Prayer. And I remember thinking then, as how old would I have been there? Anyway, teenager. I remember thinking then, maybe you are a bit more religious than you let on, because when you need it, you're leaning on it, I've always loved churches. I always find them, like, I remember I went to one in New York when I went with my girls when they were older, and I dragged them into this church off like 5th Avenue, and I just thought, wow, the fact you can create an oasis of calm in a place like this, I just love it. Like, I find them really calming places to be.
Yeah.
And so all of these things were kind of going on, and then when I met Stu, my life just changed so much. I just really was so content and so settled and so in this lovely family unit, and I just felt like I was living a really godly life, as I call it. Like, we were just living a really nice life. The children were just all really having a good time and really nice. And I just thought one day, I thought I'd love to get christened. And then I thought, well, why not? Why not get christened? And it was the most intense emotional experience of my life. Like, I was like, I love a party, so I'll get christened and I'll have a party. And I did. I got christened. I had a great party. I got some amazing photos, but it was so emotional. Like, when I went before with Rob, who's the vicar, and he was like, "You're the first adult christening I've ever done." He knew me because he knew me from my grandma and everything. And I said, "Yeah, I just really want to. I feel like I'm living a good life. You know, I want to be a part of the church. I want to be christened in God's name." I don't actually go to church, by the way. I did say I would do, but I just never do. Never get round to
You haven't
it.
got the time.
I don't have time, right? But anyway, but I never really felt like I needed to go to church to be with God. Like, I feel like God's with me. And I got into manifesting and stuff, and I'm like, this is just praying, really, isn't it? But we're calling it something else. But anyway, and when I went to see Rob, he does a little bit beforehand, you know, where he sits and he talks you through it, and I just cried the whole way through. Like, I just was so emotional about it all. And he kept saying to me, "Why are you crying? Like, why are you upset?" And I was like, "I just don't know." It felt like, I don't know, like a release, I guess, or like therapy of some kind.
Yeah.
You know, like that almost asking for forgiveness and getting it feeling was like, I really needed it. And the actual day, oh my God, it was so intense. Like, being christened, and my dad is religious, and he stood up and he cried doing his speech. My dad loves the speech, and he just went to pieces. I went to pieces. Like, I had my best friend Phil, who I'm going out with tonight for a curry. He was like my godparent because I just love him so much. And my uncle was my godparent, the one that bought my house. And, you know, and my friends were my godparents. And I was just like, just felt really amazing and just so profound and deep. And
Did you somehow feel complete?
yes,
Yeah.
I felt complete. Like, I'd come home, like, but I'd had to have gone through all the stuff and done all of the things, and almost like Stu was like my reward. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I've done all the inner work to get myself in a good place, and got myself into that place of feeling really good about myself. And then Stu appears, you know, and and we had such an amazing, like, courtship, I suppose you'd say, and it was just such an amazing, like, I was saying, like, living in my own, like, rom-com. Like, it was just such a great sort of year, 18 months between getting together and getting engaged. And then we got married within 2 years. So it was this kind of whirlwind in a way, but like, when you know, like, it's such a cliche, but it's true, especially in your 40s. It's like, you know, and our wedding was just so incredible. So yeah, the christening was 18 months before the wedding. And it was just, yeah, it was just really important to me, and it was really powerful, and I'm really glad I did it. Yeah, I got married in the same church, but I didn't need to get christened to get married there. He would have married us anyway.
If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
Being a good mum.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like you are. And it sounds like you are, Helen. Oh, bless you.
I don't cry on these things. I'm
Because
not talking about business strategy anyway.
yeah, you know what it is, because you're able to be authentic and yourself. And I think that I asked you a question about, is your business your personality? And when you told me what drives you and gets you up in the morning is helping people, I would say yes, it is,
It
because
is.
all
It is,
of your journey has taken you to this point.
yeah. Mm,
And the love that you have for your children, you know, when I guess when you had no money and you had to be supportive, and I've been there as a single mum, it's really hard. It's frigging hard. It's hard because you know, you've got to you just feel so guilty all the time. And half of that is why you needed to make that money. And it was never about, I'm presuming, the £1 million either, because
no.
it was just about earning money so you could live. And then now you can give this gift to all these other people.